and I'll say that. We've got all of our sponsors here. We've got a good in-person and online audience. So my name is Lisa Treadwell. This is Indy Senior Living Series. I'm the owner of Indy Real Estate Experts, and my team member Sarah McCord's over here too. We're both real estate agents, and we exclusively specialize in helping seniors downsize. We're the only brokerage that does that, by the way, in the state. And I'm starting to say that, although I feel like that too braggy, but anyway. Yeah. Yeah. So this is Indy Senior Living Series. It's an educational outreach to seniors. It's free, thanks to all of our wonderful sponsors here. And they have goodies out, lots of goodies. I think the holidays bring out the giving spirit in everybody, and so there's like extra candy and stuff. I had a truffle for breakfast today. Thanks, Dave. So anyway, so thanks again. If you're online, you can turn on your cameras if you'd like. We have your cameras muted or turned off and your microphones muted. You're welcome to turn them on. We are recording this. We're streaming online on Facebook and YouTube. And then we're going to place this video on our website to live forever and ever and ever and ever. So, and then if you're in person, raise your hand, shout out questions. You can raise your hand online. If you're calling in, it's *6 on your phone. And what else? Restrooms are out down the hall on the left. I think you guys know that for in person. If you don't know where your restroom is in your house, we should talk. If you're online and you don't know. No, I'm kidding. So very informal. Bright Star Care brought a delicious spread for breakfast. So help yourself to coffee, pastries, fruit. We're going to be doing giveaways later for a gift basket that Clear Captions, one of our other sponsors, brought in this morning. And I think like I said, our sponsors have a lot of goodies. So make sure you go visit them before you leave and talk to them. If you're online, we will post their handouts, all the handouts that we have here. We'll post them, and Sarah's going to put that link to the Google Drive there. I see some chats coming in. Okay, that's just Sarah. Okay, tell me if we have any questions online, and Muhammad's watching online if we have any Facebook or YouTube questions. So if you're out there and you're watching live and you have some questions, you have an opportunity to get them answered live here. So type them in. Okay, so without further ado, we're going to get to our panelists. We're talking about a wonderful topic, mental health. I just adopted a puppy and I have 2 teenagers at home. So mental health is at the top of my list, sometimes in a good way and sometimes in a bad way. I think I told one of you that I cussed out my son this morning before I left for school. And so he deserved it though. So anyway, so we're going to get started. We're going to have these ladies introduce themselves, and then we're going to dive right in. We'll ask them questions, and then after each question, we'll give you a chance to ask your questions, the audience questions, and then we'll open it up for general questions at the end. So don't be shy. This is a safe room. We're not going to go spread all your business, although this is being recorded. So yeah. Oh, one last thing. Okay, so this is our audience. So just pretend like that's another person, the online audience. And then this camera over here, guys, if you want to wave hi to the online members, they can see you. It's on you guys. So you can see all of us up there. All right. So you go first.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm really happy to be here with you. And my name is Roxy Stone. Hi. Yeah. Okay. Okay. My name is Roxy Stone, and I'm therapist with Pathways to Healing Counseling in Noblesville. I have been in the mental health field for more years than I would ever probably admit to anybody, to most people, except probably you people. So at any rate, since the mid-70s. So I've worked in probably every level of mental health care except for residential. At state hospital experience, hospital inpatient. I was at St. Vincent for 15 years doing IOP, partial hospitalization.
What's IOP?
IOP is intensive outpatient. And that is a level of care higher than outpatient because they are at the facility for 3 hours a week, 3 days a week. Partial hospitalization, that is another level higher, and typically they are at the facility for 5 days a week for 5 hours per day. And then inpatient is the level after that. And I've also had experience teaching for about 8 years at Indiana University Kokomo in undergraduate school and Butler University in their graduate school of mental health counseling.
Wow.
Been
Okay.
around here for a while.
All right. And were you gonna, we'll get to it, but are you gonna say that you're EMDR sort of?
Yeah, yes, I am EMDR, brain spotting, and accelerated resolution therapy, which is kind of a permutation of EMDR certified.
And if you don't know what that means,
Trained, I'm
it's
sorry,
okay. We're
not
gonna talk
certified,
about it.
trained.
Trained, okay. You have to share your mic, Holly.
Yes, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning. I'm Holly Dunn. I'm here today with Ascension. I work for the Stress Center here in Indianapolis. I'm a clinical supervisor and wear a handful of different hats. I was here last year. This
Yeah.
gentleman here looks so, were you here last
Yeah.
year? Looks so familiar.
We have a lot of repeat offenders and we love it. We love them.
Yeah, I think we spoke last year. That's why you're
Not an outpatient though.
not, yeah, no, not for work. So, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I like this group because typically at this stage in my career, I'm one of the senior staff or senior social workers, and I'm not today. So
Doesn't make you feel young. They don't know it, but that's why I hang out with them too, because they're like, I'm like their kid.
So I work very closely with Lisa's mother. Her, Violet and I's office are right next to each other at the Stress Center. I'm not always there. Violet's fantastic. So I'm just here to answer questions, share some information about mental health any way I can help.
Good. Yes, and my mom usually comes here, you know, she takes off every second Thursday to come and help, but she's been sick. So, yeah, so she didn't miss and she needed that because she knows both of these ladies. In fact, she was instrumental in getting them to be our panelists today. So, but she's not feeling well. So, so we miss you, Mom.
She may be on.
Yeah. I'll have to tell her to watch if she's not watching. All right, so we're going to dive in. And again, you guys just feel free to shout out your answers or questions. Sponsors also really laid back. Again, if you're online, type your questions in the comment box or raise your hand. And we've got a couple of people watching for those, so we can ask them in person. If you're on Facebook Live or YouTube Live, same thing. Pop your questions into the chat box and we'll be happy to ask them here. Okay, so what is the relationship between aging and mental health? So there's no order, just if you're holding the hot potato, you get to go first.
I guess to me, that's a hard question to ask because I think everybody, you know,
Yeah,
kind of throughout their lifespan deals with their own mental health. You know, I think people have ebbs and flows in their mental health. So I'm not sure. I think there are definitely things that are unique to seniors, but I'm not sure that mental health is unique to seniors.
Okay, that's fair.
I would say I agree. I am a strong proponent of therapy for everybody. And in all life stages, there are some differences, but I think mental health is mental health.
Yeah, that's good. I kind of feel the same way. I think that, do you think it's a voodoo topic? Like, why do people not want to talk about they're going to the therapist? I mean, I feel like it's opening up more now, but
more now,
yeah.
But I think especially for people who grew up when I grew up, and it looks like maybe that applies to a lot of the people in here anyway, and even later, there was a huge stigma about mental health, and I never understood it. I know when I worked at the Stress Center, we would talk about how if everybody who ever experienced depression or anxiety or bipolar or was ever taking any kind of medication, you would all just turn purple. You would look around and see an absolutely purple world. So I never exactly understood the stigma. And it is significant and restored trauma in our bodies. And there's a very strong connection between physical health and mental health. And yet there does seem to be, and hopefully it's going away, the stigma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking about that with somebody before the event, just how the mental and physical are connected. So, Holly, do you? Sorry.
I have a different view of,
Yes, ma'am.
I think mental health is developmental because every time I ran into a wall where I was terrified, scared, didn't think I could do it, whatever, I went straight to the community mental health center and said, why am I so terrified of this? This is what I really want. And so for me, it's been developmental. I have to own up to the fact that I was married to a clinical psychologist. I had it 13 different times, but I'm 74 years old. And every time I hit a wall, that's where you go. It's like you got a toothache, you go to the doctor.
Yeah.
You've got a wall to climb, and I'm not sure you're going to make it. Go to the mental health center to find out before I get strong.
I love that. Like, good for you. I think that's wonderful that you're able to, that you have found that and that you knew, you know, if my toothaches, I go to the dentist.
Right.
If I'm struggling with something emotionally, I go to the therapist. I think that's fantastic. I've spent a lot of my career working with kids and families, and I say all the time that you know, any child, well, really anyone I ever work with, you know, my first goal is always that that they find some value in what we are doing, that they enjoy it, that they like it, that it's a good experience for them. I think one of the worst things in the world we can do is not have that perspective with clients. And, you know, kids come in and they hate it. It's awful. It's terrible. And we've just set the stage for them to never seek mental health services again. And so, you know, my goal is always with any patients that, you know, that it's a good experience, that they value what we're doing, that they find something out of it. And that they're whether they come back to see me or they go back to see anybody, that they're still open to being able to find that support.
Yeah.
So good for you.
I'm gonna just check, are there any online questions? Trust you'll let me know, Sarah. Okay, so do you see an increase with mental health concerns around the holidays or winter months? So this is not Mental Health Awareness Month. Which month is that? August? October?
We all
It
have
was like,
different
there is
holidays.
a Mental Health Awareness Month, and this is not it. But I like to have this topic around this time because the holidays, it seems, bring out some feelings that maybe were there, but you know, now they're hiding.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. And again, I think it goes along with what you said earlier, is that I think, you know, the stigma is less these days. I think so many of us are talking about mental health, and you know, I think publicly as well as privately within our families and within our partnerships and things like that, that I think people are aware that mental health concerns, people's depression, anxiety, whatever it is, that can heighten during the holidays. And because people are more aware, because people are talking more about it, I think that's really a positive thing and something that certainly impacts that.
Right. Excellent. Thank you. I would just like to add a little bit in that from what I've seen in private practice, there used to be a huge change, and it would ramp up from the beginning of school until Christmas, and just right at Christmas it would drop and then pick up again in January and go till the end of school and then drop for the summer. Since COVID, I have not seen the drop. And that has been, everybody I know is booked, and I know everybody where I work has a wait list, and so we have not seen the drop, although the intensity for people that we do see does increase in the holidays and that kind of thing.
So mental health is finally getting the love it deserves. It took a pandemic, unfortunately, for that to happen, but yeah,
To be that.
yeah. So I volunteer for a committee, it's called RPAC, Realtor Political Action Committee. So we endorse candidates, who are realtor friendly, so housing and things like that. And the two like hot topics have been for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years now, are affordable housing and mental health. And so I think that if politicians are talking about it, maybe finally, yeah.
I mean, that's great. The realtors are talking about mental health. I mean, that's wonderful.
Realtors need to talk about mental health.
Yes. It's like a program, the mayor in Noblesville has started a program called Mental Health Mondays, and he's on Facebook Live. Chris Jensen, with Kristen Boyce, who is the owner of Atlas. And so every other Monday, they at 11 a.m. they are online talking about mental health. It's really a good program.
Where
You go to Facebook and the City of Noblesville Mental Health Mondays. And
That's
you can find it.
amazing.
Yeah.
So Mental Health Mondays, Chris Jensen, the mayor of Noblesville, is partnering with Pathways, and you can go on Facebook and look for it. That's awesome. Chris has actually interviewed with our committee, and so I know he's doing really good things for the city of Noblesville. So good. Any questions? Checking? Sponsors? Anybody? Go ahead, Phil.
This is a question for Holly. You just deal with kids, or do you do adults?
Me personally, most of my experience has been with kids and families. But working at the stress center now, I work in a school-based program. I do supervision of younger, newer clinicians, providers, and I actually run the senior group. We have a senior group that the majority of the seniors that come to group come after they have had a stay in the hospital. We have a senior psych unit that provides or caters towards seniors and their needs and mental health needs. And so oftentimes the services that they need after the hospitalization, they'll find in our senior group. So I do that too. So
Is that open to be, you don't have to have had a hospital stay, or?
and I mean, it's not, you have to come in, I guess I should say, you come in, you do an assessment through the stress center, and then they help people find their level of care. We have what's called an access center, which is kind of the way you enter care at the stress center. And anyone can come in that has mental health needs and have an assessment.
Any certain time?
Oh, 24/7.
Yeah,
365 days a year. Yep.
Why I'm asking this, because I have experience with this, because my youngest stepson, we're divorced, but he was there at the stress center, actually 3 times. And then my oldest adopted son was there. And I thought it was a fairly well addressed. I don't have any contact with my stepson at all now, but through other reasons. But the youngest, or my oldest adopted son, has worked through problems, but it really didn't really go, because he has a laundry list of problems, which it's sad, but it's true. I mean, his biological mother was a drug addict. We didn't know any of this when we adopted him. We were foster parents to these kids before. And we did what we were told. And I give advice to anybody that does this: establish a paper trail, because people come and go. They don't know what the hell is going on. And then I'll get off my soapbox here, but
I didn't know that with you.
my youngest, both of them were on meds, heavy duty meds. One of them was five drugs a day, other was 6.
Wow.
And I even heard the other day, there's a shortage of Adderall right now. On the news, they had that on the news. And I thought, oh, well, you know, but my kid, the youngest adopted son, had lied to me, still lying to me. But yeah, I'd give him his meds, but he'd cup them and throw them around the room. And he probably, street value of this stuff would be crazy. I turned it all into the fire department because I didn't know what it was and all that.
It
But
sounds
that's-
like, yeah, just an array
But,
of needs.
so.
Yeah.
Does insurance pay for this?
I
That's a
do
good
at the stress
question.
center, yes. Yeah, at the stress center it
That
does.
was my second question.
Yes.
Because I'm on.
Yeah.
I take services in St. B's anyway, so I
Yeah.
was just curious.
Yes.
Laura with Westminster had a question. She was short time around Westminster. I keep telling everybody. I know. It's you.
Yes, so I just wanted to say also to put this into relation to a community. So sometimes people come to a community because they're feeling isolated, they're feeling lonely,
Yeah.
they're feeling all of those things, and they get some support from there, not to at all downplay what therapy and things, but there's a lot of also support that comes through that community.
Yeah.
And if anybody is considering a community, making sure that you go to a community as a strong social worker connection to be able to provide mental health services is really, really, really important.
Yes, amen. I thank you for saying that because the term or the phrase aging in place or aging in home is kind of a buzz term. Everybody wants to leave their house, and even my own grandma said, they're not taking me out of here unless it's in a pine box. And they didn't, so, but she was also mobile up until her, the end of her life. And so she would get out and play bingo. She would always say, I'm going gambling. And, so she had this socialization, but for many folks, they do not, and they're sitting in their house. And I don't know about you, but I mean, I even have 3 dogs and 2 kids, and I get sick of being, well, maybe that's why I get sick of being at home. But like, I gotta get out and get to the office or see other humans, for the socialization. Yeah, so Miranda.
Do you have a support group or members of those who need that help?
That's a great question. I'm just gonna repeat it. So the question was, do they have support for the caregivers of the folks who are receiving mental health services?
There are different levels. The stress center is, again, has different levels of care. It has different levels of services. So there are expectations with the kids that parents participate, things like that, but there's not necessarily a support group for that. But I do believe they're out there. They're definitely out there. Yes. Yeah.
You are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're out there. I know.
Caregiver support.
And I think Daughterhood is a caregiver support group. Daughterhood, Sarah and I got involved with that from Jean Ross, who spoke to this panel, actually, I think in January maybe, but you made me think of her because she has created an app that keeps all of your medical information. You can add family members, you can even add pets on this app that you can have on your phone. And is she still in beta with this?
I'm not sure what's happening. The group, you're talking about the Central Indiana Daughterhood Circle. And it's for females because at the end of the day, we primarily end up being the ones that are kind of put in that caregiver role oftentimes. So it's like once a week, you can get on and talk with other people that are going through the same things that you might be going through. And then it just becomes like a little online support group where you can ask questions.
And they had a really interesting lady last week. I still want to watch that. Do you remember who, it was a doctor?
Yeah, Dr. Ann Kinney, he, has a couple different books, but they specifically talked about having tough conversations with aging family responsible.
So it's online and you can watch, I don't know if it's a closed group. Okay. Yeah, so, all right. That was good. Thank you for your questions and comments. Check it online too. All right, so are there common mental health problems that affect seniors more than others? And kind of on the same trend, I guess.
I think a lot depends. There probably would be maybe more loneliness, grief kinds of things that might affect seniors more, although both loneliness and grief can affect people at any age, for sure.
Yeah.
I think some things like oppositionally defiant kids and those kinds of things are not present in the senior population, so that that doesn't happen. I think there's always concern about dementia and those kinds of things, but that's a little bit. It does include mental health, but it kind of goes into neurology and that kind of thing as well. I think a lot of mental health is mental health, and there are different things kind of through the ages. For some, it's difficult.
They can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. For some, it's difficult to accept aging, and that can be a problem.
Okay. Yes, Sean.
One of my residents, I work at a lost her very first grandson. He was 19 years old. Lost him in March, and she in March was believing someone was down, and that wasn't her. We noticed this baby. We went to eat, and we brought her food, and we sit there. So we ended up to people. So something like that definitely.
Absolutely.
I was just gonna say the death of, I mean, if you get to a certain age and it seems like all you go to are funerals, like, and all your friends are dying, like, I mean, that would be depressing in and of itself. I just went to a funeral, a viewing last week, and it was the most awkward thing. I mean, I've been to viewings and funerals before, but not on a like, if you're in your 80s maybe, and all of your friends are dying, I mean, that's probably like, where you go, the phase where you go to all the weddings and the baby showers and everything, and then now you're in the funeral going phase. Like, I mean, that's depressing to think about. Yeah.
The other thing that I would add that I see in the senior group that I run on a weekly basis, a lot of the people that come that participate, and they've had years of mental health struggles. A lot of them have struggled with depression, anxiety, kind of things their whole life. And so just because they're seniors doesn't necessarily mean they're not struggling with that still. And so, I think just acknowledging the fact that sometimes that just continues through life. The one other thing that I think is unique, not just to seniors, but is somewhat unique to seniors, is just health related struggles. Is that, as you get older, you deal with your own health issues, just physical health issues, and that can be anxiety producing, that can be depression inducing. There's a lot that just managing your medications and getting to all your doctor's appointments, and for some people finding rides and getting where they need to be, and it's a lot.
Yes, I was thinking about that, the physical ailments and the connection between that and mental health. You'll never see me probably wear heels ever again. I have this hip situation happening. I'm 46, so I think 40 is the gateway when things start happening to your body that, your body's letting you down. Anyway, it's been going on for like 2.5 years, and I've been telling I've been to chiropractors and this and that, and I tell them, like, because they ask like your pain level, and it's not necessarily the pain level. I tell them all the time, it's like more mental than anything, because I don't feel like I should have this hip. I'm 46, I'm not even 50 yet. Like, I should be able to still run. I'm in my head, I can, but if I tried to, I would be down for a week, So I think those physical ailments can be mentally debilitating.
Absolutely, I think so too. And, you know, I think one of the things that we talk about in group all the time is just staying focused on the positives. Is that, you know, aging is aging and it is what it is. It's gonna happen whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
We're all gonna have things that contribute to that. And being able to look at what is positive and what you are still able to do and what is still good with, you know, within your life, within your relationships, within your health. I think, you know, I'm a caretaker for my mother who has Alzheimer's, and as tough as that is, we say all the time, well, it could be worse. She's in great spirits. She's a wonderful spirit. She's hilarious. She's always upbeat and just positive and funny, I guess, not so much positive, funny. And so, we kind of focus on the fact that she doesn't necessarily know who we are. She couldn't say, this is Holly, my daughter, but, we try to stay focused on what is positive. It's a nasty disease and it's hard to watch and it's hard for her to go through. But again, we try to look at what's positive, and she's funny and she is a joy to be around. And so I think that's one of the approaches that we use just to cope with things.
Okay. Questions, comments? Online audience, are you guys there? I know we had a couple of people that actually called and they said we wanted to be there in person, but one of the spouses is sick and so they're watching online. So we see you and thank you for joining us. Okay.
One of the things that I struggled with, and it caused a lot of mental health problems for me, when I lost my partner, it's been nearly 50 years, is that in the last 10, 15 years.
Here, I'm gonna give you this. Yeah. I was gonna repeat, but I don't think I'm gonna
sorry.
be able to repeat everything you're gonna say.
One of my most difficult problems after I lost my partner almost 50 years was that when he retired, he started separating his activities for the family from me. And so he was 10 years older than I was, and I'm busy working and really hustling. And he's at home retired, and his job was to take care of everything except my work. I mean, he had a lot of responsibility. However, our life goals were to travel. So that's what he mostly did, is became an outstanding traveler. But when he died, I did not know how much the heating bill was. I didn't know that all of our banking was online. I didn't know whether we had a home warranty or not. I definitely just found out 3 months ago that we have a water softener and that it takes 4 years and 10 months to not put any salt in there because you don't know it exists.
Is it yellow or a blue bag? You gotta know that.
Right, well, and I have to get pellets.
Don't see, that's the blue bag.
Sake.
No, that's the
But
yellow bag.
I'm saying that there was a deficit that I was completely unaware of. And that it is constantly, in 5 years, I can't count how many times I found out something that I didn't know about our condo. Now, what did I do? Okay, when we moved in, I read all the bylaws and the rules, where you could park, and if you could take your dog and let poop on the grass, all that kind of stuff. So I didn't violate any of the rules. I certainly wasn't intentionally doing anything wrong. But what kind of an idiot doesn't know that they have a water softener?
I could have told you that.
The person that takes care of, the person that's married to someone that takes care of.
There's like this big, huge hole, and you don't even know when you're gonna fall in it. It just drops on you.
Keeps
from
popping up.
nowhere.
Yeah.
And also, these things are not free. So it causes constant financial stress. When's the next time I'm gonna have to come up with $7,342? I don't want to find out. Just let's not have that happen. But how do I know that I'm even doing what I'm supposed to be doing now?
Yeah.
And I've never seen myself as an unconscious person. But then I look back on my life and I have a secretary secretary and mostly got an assistant and mostly got me paralegal. Okay, cool. I could keep 3 people busy, no problem. And, I've had so much assistance. So I could focus on what I was focusing. And that was true at home too. The other thing is, we always had this goal to travel the world, and we did. And we started as soon as we paid off the kids' college debts, we were like 49 and 50. That's when we retired. So we traveled the world, and we've been to 74 countries together on 7 continents. So
That's crazy.
that was a big success. But then I lost my husband, and I didn't even know that the next 3 trips were planned, and $10,000 were put down on each one, because that was what we
Oh,
did
wow.
in the next year. And I lost a ton of money
Yeah.
and made mistakes. And found out I had no skills because I became obsessed with saying goodbye to him in Paris. So I insisted on going to Paris, and I said, fine, I'm going along. And everyone in my family, and I ended up taking my big sister and paying for her too. But
You want me to-
And that brings up the top, you know, just, I think finances are,
Yeah.
like, I think finances are you know, an absolute stressor for people, you know, all through life.
Yeah.
Whether you're little and learning it or.
but when it's a surprise, it's like
Totally.
Yeah.
100 million times.
That's actually a great segue into our January event. We're going to be talking about managing finances for seniors. And you guys have on your tables, and if you're joining us online, we'll put this in the Google Drive that Sarah's going to post a link to. We'll put this in there, but it's next year's event schedule. So we're here again this year, but it also holds our offices. So if any of you have resources to help me make that happen sooner rather than later, I would love that. Oh, yeah. Except I do residential real estate and I deal with seniors and, yeah, so anyway, but I mean, I'm serious about this, so serious that I put an offer in on a property, somebody else bought it, got outbid, so. Anyway, but the events are here, and the topic for January is money management through retirement. And you are not alone in that, having a spouse who handled all of the financial and then just being lost. Yeah, and I don't know why, but I feel so empowered when I put that salt in my water softener. Like I mean, it's a 40-pound bag. Yeah, but like, and I mean, I do, I think, more impressive things than put salt in a water softener, but putting that salt in the water softener is so empowering. I don't know. Anyway, but you're not alone. So, all right. So, let's see. What signs should we watch for that may indicate mental health concerns, and where do we go first to seek help?
I think there are lots of things. Change in particular would be something I would look for. Lack of interest, loss of motivation, or withdrawing from usual activities. Anything that changes from your normal routine without some kind of reason. If something has happened that, like, you had a major loss or a major problem, or a problem like you can't get the salt in your water softener, or anything like that, and you're reacting in a way that is different, I would look a lot for changes. And then I would seek mental health counseling if it is a mental health problem. If it's a physical problem, or if you're unsure, I would rule out the physical first. But I would certainly head to a mental health center or the stress center or community or somewhere like that for an evaluation or some sort.
So you said rule out the physical first.
Yeah.
Is it your experience though, if you go to a doctor and you say, I'm falling a lot more than I can ever remember, or, I can't open the pickle jar and I've always been able to open the pickle jar, or I can't put salt in my water softener. And that used to be like one of my favorite things to do in life. And now I can't do it. Is a doctor, inclined to be looking for mental health, or are they just ready to write a script for
I
something?
think
or-
that hopefully you have a good enough relationship with your doctor, and I don't know that everybody does,
Yeah,
but oftentimes there can be a physical problem that can be very easily solved. And sometimes I think people end up seeing someone for mental health when it is a physical problem, and probably the reverse
Vice
too.
versa, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's important, but I would rule out the physical first, simply because I think you might be able to do that in a shorter period of time.
Laura?
So this topic is so meaningful to me right this minute, because as I was coming over here, my best friend has been sick for 2 years. Okay, she's gone from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, and me as her best friend thought, she's depressed. She's got some mental health concerns going on. In this period of time, she lost her cat, who was very dear to her. She retired from a profession that she had worked in for more than 50 years. And she began to seclude herself. So I'm like, so
Yeah.
Sure.
there's a connection here. She
Love,
felt
love.
that all the time. I was standing next to her when she was talking to her doctor on the phone. She's mad at the doctor because they've given her now on her 4th round of antibiotic, but she still feels this way. And the doctor said to her, I think maybe, and they had said that to her before, she was not willing to hear it at the time.
Oh, that's good.
And so, she and I on Sunday, she called me, she was down the street from me, she said, I just need to come down. She hit the door, she started crying. We had the most open conversation that it felt like I kind of tried to bring up mental health.
Yeah.
It does still have that stigma of, well, what are you saying about me? That's what I
That's
felt
really
like.
good. Yeah.
This is even more complicated because my best friend was married to my ex-husband first. I was the second
Oh.
one. We've been best friends for some years because of this connection of a man that neither of us are married to. But, so there's an underlying, well, I was the first wife and I was, I don't know, but in any case. So this is so meaningful to me, and I'm so sad that she's not here right now, but I wouldn't raise my hand to speak about it. But I just sent her a text that said, oh my God, I'm in a meeting where they're talking about physical health and mental health. And she just uncomplicated herself from something that was creating part of this mental health dilemma. She feels better.
Oh, that's
Yes,
crazy.
absolutely.
Physical
Yeah.
health is better.
Yeah.
She's able to go out and have hostage. She's able
There's such a strong connection
Yeah.
between the two. There's a great book by Bessel van der Kolk called Body Keeps the Score, because we
The
store
body
trauma,
keeps the score.
store trauma in our bodies. And especially if something has gone on for 2 years, would really be worth exploring those kinds of things.
to, thank you, I wanna hug you.
Oh.
It's very important.
I was gonna ask, eventually, I was sort of waiting for it to get into this, but if you do have a loved one and maybe you can see that there's something that involving mental health, but they're not ready to hear it. What do we do? What can we do? Say you're married to somebody and they're depressed, but or you think, maybe they have something mental going on, but, they're not willing to hear it.
I think you have to have the tough conversation like you did. And I think you go about that by talking about yourself and how much you care about that person. Because I think if you go into it with you,
Yeah.
the person is going to get defensive and pull back. But I think you have to have the tough conversation. And sometimes it takes hearing it 2, 3, maybe 4 times before somebody decides to do something about it. And sadly, you typically can't force somebody into treatment unless it's really, really, really bad.
And my only other thought is, I think especially when you're talking partners or close family members or parents, children, spouses, whatever, sometimes you set the example. Sometimes you just set that example because I think sometimes people are fearful, they're uncomfortable, they don't know how to do it, they don't know how to get connected. And I think sometimes you doing it, I'm a huge believer in the only thing you can control at the end of the day is you. And so, sometimes just setting that example and doing your own work. And sometimes that work is work I need to do because I need to do that work. Sometimes it's work that I need to do because I live with someone that won't do that work. Or I deal with someone, a parent, a child, or whatever. Sometimes just setting an example is always a good thing.
That's good.
Anyone advocate to retire? There's a handful of leading clients that we work with where taking that, something that has identified you for so many years, take that away. I've definitely seen it with loved ones and friends, parents, and things like that, where that's a definite transition as you age during that retirement. Like now what do I do? How do I feel like I have purpose?
Yeah.
We want to think of the aging process where I think it's really the work from aging to staging.
From aging to staging. I like that. I like that. We've had 2 book,
It's a great book because this is my fear, because I'm retiring. After a long time, I get my self-value out of what I need to do for others. Okay, so sitting at home has gotten me scared to death, and so I found some things to do. But one of the people I met talked to me about this book, and he really talks about living your life. Of course, that's really what it boils down to. But how to take, and track that, because that's a tough thing to say as well. How do I live my life differently?
Yeah.
Than I have. So aging to staging.
Aging
And
and
I'm
staging. Yeah. Aging and staging. And then Roxy, what was that one book that you?
Oh, The Body Keeps the Score.
The Body Keeps the Score. Your book, people.
One of the things that I really would like to say to you is I think it's incredible that you identified that you find your worth in helping others and have made a plan to continue doing that in some way after retirement. Those kinds of things are very important.
It wasn't without some time of going, all my friends going, that makes sense. Money. So the change in
Income, yeah.
and all of that. So I would say
I think with any transition, there are always losing your job, work.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm sneaking my residence back if I was sneaking after 5 when I was.
And hang out and bingo and stuff. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they take volunteers, right?
Yeah. Okay, were you gonna say more on that? And what are the signs and where can we seek help?
I will say, I think we've talked about the signs. I think, as far as seeking help, I think there's all sorts of services. One of the resources that I give people all the time that I think is fantastic in this Indianapolis area it's Psychology Today. One word, psychologytoday.com. And the largest majority of therapists in this area advertise, or I don't know the right word for that, but have information on there. And it's a great resource for connecting with a therapist in this area. You go to psychologytoday.com, very first page, it says real big at the top, find a therapist. You can click on that. And the thing that's nice about it is you can narrow it down based on insurance, based on location, zip code, do you want a male, do you want a female, their expertise, all that kind of stuff. It's a great resource for finding a therapist. I think that for seniors, one of the barriers is Medicare. Not everywhere takes Medicare. And so, again, I think Psychology Today is a great job of, you can narrow it down for those therapists in the Indianapolis area that take Medicare, that work with seniors, whatever it is. So
That's good. One of the online comments was to repeat kind of what we were, audio on questions is not audible. Maybe give them a mic when asking or repeat if possible. Oh, okay. So Laura, one of the sponsors, was just talking about, we were talking about phasing into retirement and how a lot of what we do for a living every day gives us purpose. And the book Aging to Saging, right? She's listening to Aging to Saging. The point is to live with intention and to maintain a purpose once you retire. Resources, psychologytoday.com. And what else did we miss? Let me know how much, if that's it. The Body Keeps the Score is another book. The Body Keeps the Score, Aging to Saging, and Psychology Today. Yes, thank you. All right. What is the best advice that you can leave us with? And I mean, we're wrapping it. I feel like people are a little afraid to maybe ask questions, because maybe you get this too, because like asking for a friend, I cussed out my son today. What did that do to him? Is he gonna be a mass murderer?
friend.
My friend did that. Yes. Not me.
The thing that keeps running through my mind is just being able to offer, suggestions of what to do, how to help yourself. I think getting connected with therapists is always a great resource. I was in private practice up in the Fort Wayne area for 20-something years. And ironically, yesterday I had 2 people reach out, just checking in and just saying, hey, I just wanted to know I was doing well. I was thinking about you through the holidays.
That's got to be rewarding.
Oh my gosh, it was one, and it was ironic that it was 2 just totally different people on the same day that did that. But my point was, there are people that I've worked with for years. I tell the story all the time that I have a client that I don't work directly with outside patients now. I just work for Ascension, but I had a lady that I worked with. I saw her every other week for 20 years.
Wow.
Every other week for 20 years. She came to therapy. Yeah, she came to therapy. Absolutely. And so, and I had, dozens and dozens and dozens of people that come, for a season. They come through a divorce, or they come for therapy through, the loss of something, or they come to therapy, they pop in and out. And then people that you see once or twice and you never see again. So I think, just knowing that that's a resource that you can use, whether it's, the same therapist that you have a relationship with, that you say, I'm good for now. Or you call and say, I haven't seen you for a couple of years, but I really need to get in. That is so acceptable. I think using that as a resource, like a doctor, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, just different things that we can do to help
Oh,
ourselves.
you
And I
brought, you
think-
brought this. Do
Yeah,
you want to talk about this?
Well, I'll glance through it with you guys. It's just something that we share in our senior group. It's a lot of the stuff that we go over that we do. And it was, mindfulness. Are you guys familiar with mindfulness? It's kind of our big catchphrase these days. It's what we do in therapy is mindfulness. So a lot of times, and it really is just, an opportunity to really pay attention to how you're doing it. It's an opportunity to be able to do things in a way without judgment, without assessment, just kind of a space to be, which I think is a great opportunity. I think when you're dealing with depression, when you're dealing with anxiety, when you're dealing with the stressors of life, the stressors of the holidays, that just to give yourself a chance to just be in a space that is safe, that is comfortable, that is, non-judgmental. And this just gives a list of ideas of what and how to do some things. Talks about breathing exercises. If you can learn anything to help with your mental health, I would tell you to do that. Learn how to breathe in a healthy manner. Learn how to breathe in a way that supports your mental health. If you're savvy on the computer, if you're savvy on your phone, there's all sorts of apps out there that you can use. I use one all the time. It's called Calm is out there. Calm is there's a fee to it.
Is there one called Headspace?
Yeah, I think there's one called Headspace. Yeah. There's lots of different ones that you can find that teach that stuff, that teach that meditation, that teach that relaxation, that teach those healthy breathing skills.
That's usually joining yoga class.
Absolutely. I think yoga is a great thing. Yeah. The thing I love about yoga is it's the exercise component, but it's also got some of that
Yeah.
just mental health kind of stuff in there.
Miranda had something.
Even Netflix has mindfulness programs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's everywhere. You can find it, it's out there. And it's stuff that you can do at home. It's things that you can practice, laying in bed at night if you don't sleep well. If you're savvy on your phone, use it. Lots and lots of things. So this goes through 10 things. The breathing exercises, the body scans. Again, you can find apps through some of on your phone. You can print things off the internet that show you how to do that. I'm sure you can find books at the library. Mind mapping is something that's different. It's a little more complicated. It's worth looking up if you're interested. Just walking mindfully. There's a big difference in going for a walk because I'm stressed out and I'm worked up and I'm frustrated or I'm overwhelmed and I'm walking and my brain is spinning and I'm doing all, thinking through it. And a huge difference between that and being able to be mindful about just being in that moment and not, acknowledging what's around you, feeling the air, sensing the smells, recognizing the colors, without judging it, without assessing it, without putting a good or a bad to it, just being aware. Journaling. And again, there's ways of doing it that are more mindful. I always tell people, I think there's a huge difference between a journal and a diary. To me, a diary is something that somebody writes, it's dated, it's factual for the most part. It's got who was there, what we did. And you can kind of read back through somebody's diary and see their lifespan. A journal is an absolute purge. It's on the paper. You can scribble, you can scratch, you can list, you can curse, you can lie, you can do whatever you want to in that journal. It's just an opportunity, a safe place to kind of get that stuff out. I always say for me, I'm not a journaler, I'm a talker. Imagine that. I'm a talker. Purger this way, not this way, but for a lot of people, that's a great opportunity to get some of that stuff out. Therapeutic color, anybody color? All these new colors. I know, love it. If you don't color, check it out. And again, being mindful of that. My mother with Alzheimer's colors a lot. I started her coloring a number of years ago and she still can do that. And she's so funny because she'll always say, oh, it's just not that good. Or, oh, I don't know. I don't know who put that color in there. and just so much judgment and assessment of it. And so I'm always telling her, Mom, you're just doing it for fun. It feels good to do it. And, you know, trying to pay attention to her senses and things like that when she's doing that, and not just judging that it's not good or it's bad, or I didn't do, I should have pressed harder there. Connecting with nature, positive affirmations. To me, that's just a huge, I think those positive affirmations, but also just looking at the positives. You really rewiring your brain. You know, most of us can walk around all day long and point out what's wrong with the world, what's wrong with ourselves, what's wrong with life, what's wrong with all people around us. I'm not sure that that gets us anywhere. So really just paying attention to what is good. And I think when you catch yourself spinning on those negatives, it's, you know what, let me look at this and find something good. I used to tell people, do I have a minute for a story?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
used to tell people all the time in my practice years ago, you know, I'd come out of my office to work with a kid and a family, and, you know, the kid's on the floor and he's wigging out, he's screaming, he's proud of it, he's doing all this stuff, and Mom's all set in the corner. And I'm like, I could walk in and I'm like, I'm thinking in my brain, what's good about this? What's good about this? How do I focus on the good? And so I can walk out and I joke that I can find something good in any given situation, because I've been given many situations that I needed to find the good. And
Yeah.
parents would get so upset with me sometimes because I'd walk out and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you guys are here. You know, I could walk out and say to that kid, get up, stop throwing a fit. This is ridiculous. Your behavior is unacceptable. That's not going to help that child at that point. Being able to look at what he's doing well and say, thank you for being here. I'm so glad you're here. You know, last week I had a kid that was in here that tore up this joint when he got mad. And you haven't done that at all. I can see you're on the floor and you're upset, but you haven't pulled out any toys. You haven't broken anything. Like I couldn't hear you in my office, so you're not screaming. So I appreciate you doing that. And just looking for what is good.
I could just see that kid's face like.
Oh, they do. Most of the kids used to say to me all the time, they say, why do you talk like that? So, you know, music, again, I have all my mom's stories, but we do some music stuff in our senior group, which is a ton of fun. I think it always brings out joy and just positive memories for most people. My mother with Alzheimer's, she doesn't necessarily remember my name, but she can sing a Don Denver song. She can sing a Barry Manilow song. She'll get in my car and she'll say, what are we listening to today? And so I keep a playlist that I can plug in.
You need a song that's like,
Holly,
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 Holly.
And so, you know, we talked a little bit about the meditations and just sleep. If you haven't done any of those on your phones or haven't done any of those mindfulness or meditation kind of things, highly recommend them. If you want help finding one on your phone, feel free to grab me after. They're good stuff.
That's good. I could just stand here and listen to you talk all day, Holly.
Yeah, that's what my husband said. Not my children.
Well, I certainly agree with that. Yeah, seriously.
What she said.
Yeah, with what she said, but seriously, I start every session with clients doing breathing exercises. And I think if there is one thing that you can do, it is to breathe well. That regulates your nervous system, helps calm you down. It sends more blood to your brain. And, you know, I think we can all use that. I think that is critically important. And I agree with the mindfulness kinds of things too. The other thing that I do want to introduce, maybe some of you too, or some of you may already know, there is a technique that is being used in therapy. It has been for quite a while now, but it is the most profound change in mental health treatment that I've seen in my career. And it's called EMDR, and it stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it is a way to reprocess old trauma in a way that you have the memory and yet things are no longer triggering. I don't know if that makes sense. Trying to think of a good example for a trigger. If you were walking through the woods and you saw a bear, you would instantly react and go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Probably not fawn, because you're not going to be able to please the bear very easily. But there would be that kind of reaction. And assuming that you got away and everything, you might be triggered by walking in the woods again. Or you might be triggered if you were at the zoo and you saw a bear or a large animal or those kinds of things. And that would stay with you. And EMDR reprocessing actually takes the triggering part away. You have the memory of the bear. You don't want to do it again, but it doesn't cause that intense emotional reaction. And it is a really powerful kind of thing. It doesn't take very long to do either. And there are a couple other variations on that, including brain spotting, and then accelerated resolution therapy is also a version. I just wanted to let people know that that's available out there.
I can speak firsthand about EMDR because I participated in that therapy for, I don't know, 1 or 2 years or so, and it is magical. It seems like, to me, it seemed real hokey, like, okay, I go back to this memory from my childhood that keeps coming up, and I picture myself in that memory, and I try to bring up what I felt back then when I was 7 years old in the garage. And then I have to close my eyes, and we do this patting thing, and she does this thing with her hand, you just watch her hand and whatever. And then you stop, and then she asks you, what comes to mind? I'm not kidding you, things would come out of my mouth and into my mind and out of my mouth that I have no idea where they came from. Absolutely no idea. And I was like, well, I don't know, this is weird, and it seems like it's not connected, but then I would say it out loud and we would talk through it, and I'm like, holy cow. And so we would keep visiting that particular memory until the feelings weren't as intense, because over time your subconscious is healing from that whatever trauma that happened. And so then you can go back and so I could picture myself in that garage, and then but not have the same feelings, because I've revisited it, and we've gone back, and my subconscious has healed from that memory. So then, some other memory will come up, and then we'll have to go and visit that one a few times and do the tapping or whatever, watch her. And then I'm like, what in the world? I have no idea why this is connected. Oh, that's why it's connected. Yeah. And it's magical, EMDR. And you have to be licensed to train or certified.
You have to be a licensed therapist and then trained. It's pretty intensive training.
Yeah.
It's like 3 days and then intensive supervision for a while, and then 3 more days and more supervision and that kind of thing, just to get the basic. And then there's training beyond that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it's cool. It's really cool, and I recommend it to everybody. My son still thinks that
Everybody.
Interesting.
And realistically, I think everybody has trauma.
Yes.
I mean, there's big trauma.
well, I think when we say trauma, it can be from being sexually abused to having getting beat up by your older brother all the time.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Or kids make fun of you at school, the bully down the street. I mean, there's big trauma that's life-threatening or witnessing life-threatening kinds of things. But then there are the other things that kind of stay with us.
Having an overcritical primary caretaker. I'm not saying my mom's overly critical, but
I know.
Of course.
I'm not talking about her. Mom, I'm not talking about her, but I could be. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, she put, I was late in turning in my attendance sheets, and she plastered my office with pictures of a character from a movie called Ultraviolet. And then there was a question, would you please turn in your attendance sheet on time?
She did.
She
My
did
mom.
that. Your mom did that.
She might need EMDR therapy.
But it really is a highly effective form of therapy. It is the most researched form of therapy that exists right now. And it does magical things. And I was with you. I thought, this is the stupidest thing I ever heard of. And there's no way that that works. And then more and more people I knew and respected were having it done personally and then learning to do it. And oh, I'm missing something here. And so
And is this covered by insurance or how much does?
it does, it depends on where you go. There are practices that take insurance and it's covered by insurance. There are other places, you know, that don't take it, but EMDR is an approved practice. Yes.
So, but you would see it like in on their website or in their title somewhere would say EMDR, licensed EMDR or certified or
EMDR trained.
trained. Okay.
And it also is listed on Psychology Today. There's also a website, it's emdria.com, it's EMDRIA.com, and there's also a Find a Therapist there. And there are lots of people in this area that are trained in EMDR. Everybody at that pathways, as EMDR brings by all those things.
I don't know why this.
What's it stand for again?
Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And the woman who created it said she wished that she had changed it to something different.
Oh, wow.
Eye movement.
Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And they've come to learn that eye movement is a form of bilateral stimulation, which means it stimulates both sides of the brain. And so there are some other things associated with that too, that are just bilateral stimulation without the eye movement, because some people have difficulty with.
Which is why my therapist was going like this, and I just had to watch her hands. And I literally, this is what would come into my mind when I was in person. I was like, oh, she got her nails done. She has acrylic nails. But then like, I'm like, okay, focus, just stop talking about her nails. And then weird stuff would come.
It's unusual and can't explain exactly what happens other than it changes neural pathways.
Yeah. Yes, Miranda.
So can I get the,
Yes, absolutely. I was gonna say, I'll repeat it, but I'm gonna get you the next, yeah.
So before we go, I think it's really important to, if you're wanting to talk to somebody about being therapy, concentrate on how you do that. So I'm gonna overlap here. Probably don't want to, this is the really, you know,
Yeah.
because of that recognition, and how do you say that? Say, should be a therapy. So somebody who is the breath, that could be something just another failure. Like you are not a therapy and you should be. It's sort of guidance. You know, like they point out something else. So if you try saying, we can consider seeing a therapist. It's a choice. Even if we know, they still made a choice. And so we're thinking about that later, and hopefully they realize they can change that choice. You make the choice for them. They're not gonna go to if they really are going, it's like yes, like, and I help you. Make very fast. So if you are listening and you listen, what is the way to how
Yeah, that's really good.
It is. Okay. It's just going to say, I think it can be helpful too, if you have been in therapy, to share your experience with the person that you're talking to. And I hope that you have. And many of us in the field have been, I have been in and out, and I would have trouble probably referring to somebody who hasn't done that right. Because I think it's very, very important.
The last question. Okay. So Marina was saying, talking about if you know somebody and you wish that they would go see a therapist, to focus on maybe how you mention that, not say you should go see a therapist. And Roxy was just agreeing. You've been to a therapist. I had a thought and I lost it. It'll come back if it was important. But yeah.
I had two thoughts. Number one, I think it's so important to find a therapist that works well for you. Is finding what works for you, and I think finding a therapist is like finding a church. Everybody talks about church shopping, and I think you can therapy shop. I don't necessarily think that it's a healthy thing to bounce between therapists. I don't like what she said, so I'm going it. But I think in the beginning, you have to find where you're comfortable, where you value that engagement, that interaction, that input. Yes, sir.
Your assessment cover, I mean,
Is there a
you find
cost?
that out in the initial assessment.
Oh, find what out?
There, what therapy or therapist would work for you.
Well, I mean, I think, I guess what I've always told people is that therapists for a long time, I'm good at what I do. That does not make me the right therapist for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's totally okay. So it doesn't mean I'm not good at what I do. Doesn't mean they're, that it's their fault. It just means that's not the right place for both of us. So, I would hope that, in a first session or one or two, that you get a feel. Some of it is like, I've known many people over the years that say, well, I went there and, they were terrible, so I never went back. And then they don't go. And it's like, oh, okay, it's okay to shop. You can shop. You can look for where you feel comfortable. It's okay to try there and go there or talk to them and see where you feel like you're going to get the most support.
Yeah, if you DGel well with them, some people prefer a therapist who maybe is connected to their house of worship. Yeah, so it's the same as maybe shopping for doctors or shopping for houses. Does this feel right to you or no? Laura?
My personal experience, my family experience, is that, my personal experience, my family experience is sometimes we don't get to a therapist until it's almost catastrophic, it's almost trauma, it's whatever. And then you start shopping for that therapist, and then you can't get in to see them for 6, 8, 10 weeks
Yeah.
or whatever. And then you're like, what the H do I do now? I don't know what to do now. And I have called the stress center in that situation. I have called community in that situation, and sometimes they can give you resources, but honestly, that's a really scary thing. As a parent to a child who's in a difficult situation and you need somebody now, your choices are very minimal. Do you go to the emergency department? Well, I don't know that she needs emergency, but so I think it's very realistic that we have to talk about when do you seek that care and what your expectations would be in terms of getting in.
That's good. That is good. You're gonna your waiting list. There's a shortage, and you guys even said you're in high demand right now specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't encourage people to be proactive more. And then sometimes just being connected with someone that you can get into is a good thing. Yes.
I spent about 3 years where I filled in with the employee assistant representatives at Eli Lilly. And toward the end of that time, the new hires coming in would stop in to see one of us because they wanted a kind of a therapist on call. And I saw that with a lot of younger people coming in so that they would connect with the therapist and have one, talk about some issues a little bit moving and that kind of thing, but then they were connected in case of something.
There's also online resources.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
Online.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe it's make a connection if they're getting assistance, the therapist may be in Phoenix.
Yeah. There are online resources for sure. Oh, wait, say that again? I missed.
We're all state licensed.
Oh, yeah.
And therapists are state licensed, so they should not be, we're not licensed you have to be licensed in the state that you are providing the
Yeah.
service. And your patient needs to be, it's okay. The patient needs to be in the state where you're working or where you're licensed, so.
Okay, we
You
have,
can be licensed, yeah.
You can be licensed
You
in
can be-
multiple states.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's an easy thing and sometimes it's not. I know we have people. I don't personally have people, but we have people who see people in South Africa and in the Middle East and in Europe, and that's a very easy thing. And I have a person who is living in Noblesville in college in Michigan, and I can't see him unless he's in Noblesville because that is his.
Or in
official-
Indiana.
Yeah, in Indiana.
Got it.
It gets
Yeah.
complicated.
It does. It gets very
Yeah, and they're
complicated.
working on that. I mean, our
Yeah, they're
licensure, they're working on that because telehealth is such a big, and needed and necessary service.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's also a soapbox because not everybody abides by this. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, and again, finding the right person for you, so is so
Yeah.
important and,
Any final questions before we give away some prizes? I think we have enough roses for everybody in the room to take one if you'd like. So we can do that. And then Stacy Bunnes with clear captions. I don't know if you guys remember the phones that, if you have some kind of hearing need, she installs those phones for free. And she was here this morning and she volunteered to be one of our panelists. In December, we're doing a topic about, what is our topic about? Technology. I need it. So she's gonna be on that panel. So yeah, we're gonna have technology for seniors. So we'll get more of Stacy next year. She's been a little MIA this year because she didn't have an assistant, but she's made these beautiful baskets for us and we'll give one away now. Did everybody get your names in? All righty. Dottie Ranner.
Dottie.
There
you go.
Congratulations. So if you need help, it's huge and they're heavy. Yeah, we can help you to take that out. So just a few reminders. We have, hopefully we'll post it on the screen here, January, February, and March events. And if you're here in person, you have the whole year. If you're not here in person, you're online, we'll get one of these out to you. I'm hoping to mail these out to our entire database because they'll fit in an envelope nicely. Give us feedback. You have the feedback form in person there and then online. I believe Sarah posted the link for that. We do read these and take your topic ideas and your feedback into consideration. And anything else? Am I missing anything, Sarah? Thanks again to our sponsors. Many of them are going to be here next year. Thank goodness, because and there they are on the screen there. And you guys, please, if you're here in person, go visit them. We also have, if you're online, we've got all of their contact information in that Google Drive that we sent to you. And I think that's it. Thank you guys very much. And happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Is there any other holiday? Happy New Year. Yeah. Kwanzaa. Yes. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Right here. There you go.